Hi guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. Loads of drama going down today. It's all going on in Formula 1 right now, especially with regard to Lewis Hamilton. Some reports emerging overnight that Fred Vasseur and John Elkann at Ferrari had both spoken to Hamilton over the past few weeks and months to try and lure his services away from Mercedes to Ferrari for 2024 and beyond. That would be, I imagine, alongside Charles Leclerc, but Hamilton, we believe, has said no and intends to sign a new deal with Mercedes. The correct decision is this from either side. Would Ferrari be right to try and upgrade on Carlos Sainz, and what could a potential duo of Hamilton and Leclerc actually look like in next year's Ferrari? Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. But the other big contract drama of the day comes around this man, Alex Palou. If you guys don't know Alex Palou, Spanish driver currently, frankly, dominating the Indycar World Championship. Very challenging thing to do to win Indycar in the way that it looks like he's going to win it. He's winning the championship by a long way and much more than is usually the case every year in IndyCar, you know, theoretically a spec series, but he's been driving incredibly well for Chip Ganassi Racing. Now, here we see him in Papaya, and last year he was driving at COTA, right, in the McLaren Formula 1 car, and has been linked to join Zach Brown and McLaren for their IndyCar team in 2024. But as it turns out, he's on Chip Ganassi Racing at the moment, and the car's very good. He's winning the championship. McLaren, I don't believe, have won a race this season in IndyCar. Might be wrong about that, but still, they're not looking so good. So you can't necessarily blame Palou for actually deciding, you know what, I don't want to leave Chip Ganassi Racing and I want to stay here going forward, or potentially get a seat in Formula 1. And that's one of the other possibilities as it stands, because there has been many potential talks that have gone on between Palou coming into F1, and there are some seats, especially AlphaTauri and Williams, maybe Haas if they don't want to keep Magnussen around, that is possible as well, but there are some seats available, and I think Alex Palou would be one of the best options in the world to take those seats up. Whether he would actually want to, that's another question that we'll get into here in a second, but the drama doesn't stop there. So he effectively has told McLaren, and there's been contract drama with Palou for some time now, and with McLaren themselves, saying that, yeah, actually guys, I know that we did kind of say, yeah, I'll join you next year, but actually, I'm not going to do that. So either this contract never really existed and it was more of like a verbal agreement and there was no contract signs, but it's a bit dramatic because even Palou's management company has come out and said, we are bitterly disappointed about his decision to break an existing agreement with McLaren. Now, this doesn't say contract, so I think that he hasn't probably broken the contract, because I'm not sure there necessarily was one, but it was clearly some sort of verbal agreement that he would go to McLaren for 2024. But, you know, Palou's decided, no, I don't really want to do that anymore because you guys aren't looking so good and I'm currently winning in this other car, so I'd much prefer to stay as it is. But his management company have parted ways and they've said, you know what, we're not working with you anymore. Thanks for the time, but life goes on and we wish him the best going forwards. So there's all this drama, and, you know, there wasn't much drama in the Formula 1 side. There's certainly drama in IndyCar. And then we get the response. So this definitely is related to Formula 1 because Palou is definitely, as far as I'm concerned, a potential future Formula 1 driver. So Chip Ganassi himself from Chip Ganassi Racing comes out with a statement saying, anyone that knows me knows that I don't make a habit of commenting about contract situations. Subsequently, I've been quiet since day one of this story, but now I feel I must respond. I grew up respecting McLaren team and their success. The new management does not get my same respect. Alex Palou has been part of our team and under contract since the 2021 season. It is the interference of that contract from McLaren that began this process, and ironically, they are now playing the victim. Simply stated, the position of McLaren IndyCar regarding our driver is inaccurate and wrong. He remains under contract with CGR, Chip Ganassi Racing. So quite the statement is got to be said. So I don't know what's going on there, but it seems like it's almost done a Piastri in some sense, where Piastri said, oh, you think I'm joining like Alpine? No, I'm not. I'm going to McLaren. And he's basically saying, yeah, you thought I was coming that way, no chance, I'm staying here. Or potentially looking at a Formula 1 opportunity. As I say, Palou will be, if he does want to come to F1, he might well at some point, he will be, I think, a hot commodity, and for very good reason. Really talented driver as far as I'm concerned. Now, there's some options out there. Aston Martin, they're not Honda yet, but they will be in 2026. Seems unlikely because Alonso's not going anywhere yet, and Stroll is not going anywhere as far as I'm concerned. McLaren, they have their drivers. They've got Piastri now, they've got Norris. Unless in the coming years Norris goes to like Red Bull or something and then there's a seat there, maybe that's a chance. But it seems like the relationship between Zach Brown, Palou, McLaren, Palou is not looking great right now, so that's probably not going to happen. The other chances for the new season, I mentioned Haas, and that's maybe a possibility, but I'm not so sure. The other options are basically AlphaTauri and Williams. Now, if you're Alex Palou, dominating the Indycar Championship, can probably win it again next year if you wanted to. Do you want to come to F1 and drive for, a backmarker car or a midfield car, depending, but not a front runner? Is that something you want to do? If you had the choice, because Williams, I think, will be looking at alternatives to Sargent's. Sargent's done okay, but he's not been great at all, and I think they'll be looking at even Mick Schumacher and other options. And AlphaTauri will be looking at things as well, right? We don't know exactly what Danny Rick might do. He might go to another team, he might stay, he might try and get the Red Bull seat for next season already. That's a possibility as well. And it's a similar set of options to what Nick De Vries had last season in a way, right? Because De Vries, I think, probably could have gone to Williams if he wanted to. I think after his great debut at Monza, they would have given him that seat. But he wanted to go to AlphaTauri. He wanted to bet on himself and say, look, if I nail it at AlphaTauri, I can become the future partner in Red Bull with Max Verstappen. Dutch teammate, it makes sense. And that's what De Vries went for. Now, if he decided to go for Williams, I think they give him the whole year, right? I don't think they're as brutal and as ruthless as the Red Bull system is that has kicked De Vries out mid-season. But if you're Palou, do you want to stay in IndyCar or do you want to come and drive an Alpha Tractor or Williams? But maybe the AlphaTauri next year is good because there's rumours that they're just going to chuck the RB19 in. And I think they're going to get better next year. They should at least, because they're going to buy way more from Red Bull AlphaTauri than they presently do. So that's your juicy set of motorsport drama for the day. But let's talk Ferrari in this Hamilton potential negotiation. Firstly, for Monza, rumour has it that they will be bringing a brand new livery to celebrate their victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So pretty cool stuff. They had something special as well last year with the yellow that they did on the rear wing, right? So maybe a similar story this time around. And there's actually been some pictures leaked of the Ferrari kit for the Italian Grand Prix to commemorate the hypercar victory at Le Mans. So this is apparently what they're going to be wearing. So interesting stuff. That's coming up in a few weeks' time. We have Zandvoort, and then we have Monza just after that. And Monza is potentially the race where Max Verstappen could break the all-time record for wins in a row, which the Tifosi would not like to see, but it's definitely looking more likely than not as it stands. Now, one of the big talking points of this silly season, as it were, that hasn't really been that much that's happened, is Lewis Hamilton's new contract negotiation with Mercedes. It's taken surprisingly longer than many expected to actually get this sorted, right? It's kind of surprising in some way that this hasn't been a done deal yet. We've been talking for months now about Hamilton extending his deal, a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal, 2+1, whatever they want to do over there. Maybe it's some sort of ambassadorial relationship post his retirement, which will happen at some point. But every time Hamilton speaks publicly on his retirement, he says, oh, well, I'm not going away anytime soon. I think he even said the other day that when he quits when he leaves the sport in 5 to 10 years, what else he wants to do. So every time Hamilton discusses it, he goes, oh, maybe 2 more years, maybe 3 more years, maybe 5 more years, right? And I'm sure he's going to look at Alonso and think, well, I can at least compete until Alonso retires, the age that he retires at. And Alonso's what, like 42, 43 now? Hamilton's like 4 or 5 years his junior. So there's still potentially a long time left. But does he want to go elsewhere? Most F1 drivers will say that at some point in their career, they'd want to drive for Ferrari. But I don't know if the luster of Ferrari is really the same as what it used to be. The rumour has it that John Elkann, of your top guy, president of Ferrari, has spoken to Hamilton, personally contacted him, which if you want to try and get Hamilton to sign for your team is what you're going to do, to offer him a deal at Ferrari. We know that Leclerc has supposedly recently signed this deal worth roughly $40 million a year for the next 5 years. Okay, it's a 2-year deal with a potential 3-year additional extension for Leclerc apparently, but that's the type of offer that they offered Leclerc, and they haven't done any renegotiation yet with Carlos Sainz for 2025 and beyond. So I think that probably shows you what they're thinking, Ferrari, in terms of changing their lineup after next season. But Hamilton said, you know what? Thanks for the offer, but no thanks. And apparently even Fred Vasseur talked to Hamilton as well and, is also speaking to him, but it hasn't gone anywhere as they're doing the negotiations with Mercedes. So it's interesting from both sides. It makes sense for both parties to do this, right? Because Hamilton's available. I think Ferrari would think it would be a mistake from Ferrari to not speak to him to try and get him, because still one of the absolute best drivers on the grid, hands down. And, just from an optics perspective, if Ferrari could get Hamilton Hamilton to leave Mercedes to join them, that'd be a big win, I think. So, a 7-time world champion, they get Schumacher, they get Hamilton, all this stuff. Like, it would make sense. But obviously not going to be what they're going to do because Hamilton said no. And should he say yes? I definitely don't think so. Is if the Ferrari was as quick as it was last year and the most likely team to compete with Red Bull over the next 2 seasons, then maybe yes. But even then, Hamilton knows everything about Mercedes. He knows the setup at Mercedes. He knows all the people at Mercedes. And he believes that they can get back on the right track. And look, they are second in the Constructors. They're probably going to finish second in the Constructors. So I don't see why Hamilton would want to leave for Ferrari unless he has that fascination to drive the red car, which drivers have, but I don't know if it feels quite the same, right? There's a feeling in me, at least, that if you drive for Ferrari, you've either got to just, you know, have some sort of masochistic tendencies or whatever, or you really believe that you can go in there and fix things, which I think is a far harder challenge than many potential Ferrari drivers would like to admit. And I think Ferrari are probably still a couple of years away of Vasseur's plan to bring in new engineers and reinvigorate their staffing system and kind of change how the politics work behind the scenes at Ferrari from actually creating consistently competitive cars. So I don't think it would be wise for Hamilton to go and join Ferrari. He has apparently told them no. I think it makes sense for Ferrari to speak to him, and also for Hamilton, right? The fact that these things are coming public from Hamilton is good for him because, you know, he's renegotiating this deal with Mercedes and it's a bit of leverage, right? The fact that Ferrari are coming in and saying, hey, Lewis, how about you come and join us? We can give you this amount of money. And he can go to Toto Wolff and say, well, look, Ferrari are offering me this type of bag. What can you guys give me? So, you know, I think it works both ways in some respects, but it is still surprising why we haven't really heard more about this renegotiation deal. But if Hamilton's turning down Ferrari, it is only a matter of time until he re-signs for Mercedes. It's just a matter of what the contract looks like. There's been rumours that they've pretty much negotiated the deal. It's now with the lawyers to figure out what the next steps are. But every Grand Prix weekend, there's always questions to Lewis, to Toto, like, what's going on with this deal? Why isn't it done yet? Because Hamilton, as it stands, doesn't have a drive for 2024. I'm sure that won't be an issue, but the precise negotiation and arrangements there are somewhat unclear. But if he's turning down Ferrari, I think we know where he's going to stay, and I do think it's the correct decision. He's not going to go and join Red Bull. Staying with Mercedes, it just makes too much sense. Whether they can deliver a competitive car, that's a question, but I don't think I would have any more confidence that Ferrari can than Mercedes. So I think this is sensible from both angles, but very much intrigued to hear your perspective in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.